are watching Eswatini TV, Sibuko Semaswati.
You know what makes Christmas so special? It's that little extra. And at Spar, we have thousands of extras. We're granting thousands of Christmas wishes and giving thousands of our customers free shopping, plus thousands in Christmas savings. Like 2-liter liquid fruit for only $29.99 and Dairy-made Country Fresh ice cream for just $44.99. Spar, the home of 1,000 little extras this Christmas.
The more fun, the merrier. Slip into holiday mode. Step out in style. Ladies' sandals, just $59.99. Why pay more this Christmas? It's your time to shine. Get more in store this festive. Life's better with Pep.
Good evening, this is Eswatini TV News Bulletin at 8, read to you by Notile Sitole alongside Zamanzi Manze. First up, the headlines. 19 million emalangeni worth of equipment bought by government for the fire and emergency services has been lying idle since 2014. Government has launched the Kingdom's Development Framework. The Ministry of Justice is drafting bills that will address maladministration issues at the Master's Office. And now, the news in detail. The Minister of Housing and Urban Development says the freezing of hiring of civil servants by the government is main reason why 19 million emalangeni worth of equipment for the fire and emergency services is still lying idle since 2014. The minister was addressing the parliament today.
The Minister of Housing and Urban Development, Prince Simelane, says despite that the equipment of the National Fire and Emergency Services call centers have been idle for a long time, but they are still in good condition. The Minister says this when briefing the House of Assembly about operational challenges faced by the National Fire and Emergency Services in its call centers. This was after Nhlambeni Member of Parliament Manzizwane moved the motion which seeks clarity on the matter. Minister says to solve this issue, members of parliament should move a motion which directs government to employ fire personnel amid the ongoing hiring freeze.
Lena nje ukuthi siyamajayeni nje lena ke kuthiwe kunetibitelo ukuthi bavule bendlela nalapho ikhona ingekho khona indlela behamba emabhulu lato bahlonishwa ngabo bavule bendlela abavule ukuthi kuvaliwe kuna freeze bafe bathi unfreeze nami sengikhalela kakhulu sengokhala embikwesivi cha Mkonzise wetinkurumo akapheli manje nemaviki amathathu bengikhona khona njalo embabani imishina selo imenomumo.
Minister says currently in all fire stations in the country there are slightly over 400 workers. For Eswatini TV News, Fortune Dlangamandla, Parliament.
The Minister of Economic Planning and Development, Dr. Tambo Gina, as represented by Principal Secretary Begi Bembe, has officially launched the Kingdom's Development Framework, DCF, which clearly outlines how Eswatini will work with development partners to achieve the Kingdom's development goals. The DCF was launched at the Royal Villa Hotel.
The Kingdom of Eswatini's Development Cooperation Framework, DCF, was approved by Cabinet in 2019. This policy is a formalized working agreement between Eswatini and the Kingdom's development partners, with the core focus being to implement the country's national development plans. This all-important policy framework further opens doors for increased grant funding for national development targets, and it comes at a time when the country has been faced with sluggish economic growth, a situation worsened by the outbreak of COVID-19. Speaking during the launch of the DCF, Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Economic Planning and Development, Bheki Bhembe, who represented Minister Dr. Thambo Gina, said this policy framework comes at a crucial time when Eswatini needs many hands to boost economic growth and improve the lives of Emaswati people.
Participation is based on our mutual interest in achieving the development results that are of vital importance for the well-being of Emaswati, in particular those whose lives and livelihoods are affected by the scourge of poverty and lack of opportunities.
United Nations Resident Coordinator Natalie Ndongose said by putting this policy in place, Eswatini has emulated international best practice.
It's a milestone because this is a platform that exists in other countries that usually is a tool for coordination between the government and the development partners, those who are in the country and those who are outside the country. It's a tool for efficiency. It's a tool for sharing of information on who is doing what in the country, in which amounts. I think that it brings also elements of transparency.
Present during the DCF launch were diplomats and those representing the country's development partners. For Eswatini TV News, Hlengiwe Ndlovu with Muzim Konda at Eswatini.
The Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, Polilisha Kantu, says the ministry is drafting bills which will deal with alleged maladministration at the Master of the High Court. The minister was speaking in Parliament when responding to concerns raised by legislators about irregularities at the Master's office.
The Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, Polile Shankatu, said this when briefing members of Parliament on what the ministry was doing regarding public outcry on the conduct of the office's employees. The minister said this following a motion moved by Gilgal Member of Parliament Sandla Fagutse. The MP moved that the House should elect 7-member select committee to investigate the reported gross maladministration, abuse of power, embezzlement of estate monies at the Master of the High Court. The minister blamed this on the outdated laws which fail to deal with some issues.
Sikhulumile kakhulu indzaba ye-office laka Master, Mr. Speaker. Ne-Human Rights Commission, Mr. Speaker, nayo iwendile ema-investigations lamaningi ngoba labanye bavele baconzele ka-Human Rights Commission nangabe abatholi sito e-office laka Master. Lesikwendile etivo kule ndzaba. Nangibuka le mithetho, Mr. Speaker, yale Administration of Estates. Le Administration of Estates Act ya 1902. So itawushaya 120 years. Yeah. Kube ne Companies Act leya 1912 ngoba lana sikhuluma nge-Administration of Estates. Individual upresent inkampani nayo ine legal persona yakhona. Nakhona bekunetikhalo tekuthi nasekufika inkampani yona ke i-estate yayo ilungiswa njani. Yabe siya-amendwa i-Companies Act, Mr. Speaker. Kube ne-Insolvency Act ya 1955 ke yona. Kube ne-Interstate Succession Act ya 1953. Kube ne-Marriage Act ya 1964. Kube ne-Wills Act ya 1955.
Despite the effort presented by the minister that the ministry was working on bills to deal with concerns at the Master of the High Court, the Select Committee was elected to investigate the allegation raised against the Master of the High Court. The 7-member Select Committee include the mover of the motion Gilgal MP Sandla Fagutse, Kukanyan MP Malavi Slongonyane, Lomahasha MP Ndumiso Masimula, Lubombo MP Lorraine Nxumalo, Princess Phumelele, Nkilongo MP Timothy Mieni, as well as Mangongco MP One Boy Zikalala. The House of Assembly Speaker Petros Mavimbela says the committee will carry their investigations when Parliament resumes next year For Eswatini TV News, Fortune Dlangamandla, Parliament.
The House of Assembly has taken a break for the year. According to the Speaker, Petros Mavimbela, the House will resume its parliamentary duties next year on a date yet to be announced by their Majesties.
Just before the House of Assembly could proceed with its work on Wednesday, the House Speaker, Petros Mavimbela, announced that it was the last sitting for the second session of the 11th Parliament, as members of Parliament will be taking break until next year.
Sesifike cishe emaphethelweni ekusebenta kwethu bahlonishwa yasithi make sure la sihamba khona sibuke lokuthi engabe kunako lesi parliament lesikwendile labantu lesinabo le emuva emakhaya bayakulandzela bahlonishwa senke sibahlonishwa covid ukhona and covid uyabulala abafishane abahlonishwa ngithi ngiyabonga kakhulu iqiniso lesike silibalekele lokhuba kwa letinye hombe ubona lethi hombe lethi sekumadima lethi kanti nje naqhubeka la sabambana sabahlonishwa sasebenza sengidinga ke bahlonishwa ndagcina ukuthi inkosi yami yini ikhumbude bahlonishwa ukuthi sesifike esikhatsini lapho sonke sibahlonishwa sesiya khona ngasemakhaya unyendike kumele sikwende kunemsebenzi welive ngiyanxusa bahlonishwa ukuthi nawo asiwendeni ngendlela yethu njalo kusingemaswati sathi ukuthi kumele sisebenze kanjani.
The Speaker encourages members of Parliament to spend the festive season with their electorates in their constituencies. He further urged members of Parliament to comply with COVID-19 regulations. For Eswatini TV News, Fortune Dlangamandla, Parliament.
Clerk to Parliament Benedict Xaba says by next year's state opening of Parliament, renovations of the August House would be complete. Xaba says renovating the house would cost 2 million emalangeni.
The ongoing parliament renovations have come with a wheelchair ramp for disabled people, which will see them able to enter Parliament. Clerk to Parliament Benedict Xaba says Senate will get a new roofing as the current one is leaking. Xaba says the renovations will also see water scarcity being resolved.
Most of the buildings were leaking and there were a lot of damages that have been done as the structure is very, very old. So I think the work is going very, very well. The company that is doing a great job. So we shall finish probably in January. So the whole project shall be finished. So a lot of things have been changed, like we shall be putting a big water tank so that the supply of water can no longer be a problem in Parliament. We have adjourned house sittings before because there is a problem of the flow of water.
On another note, Xaba appreciates the warm welcome from Parliament staff. He added that parliamentarians will soon see many changes that will make them happy.
The public as well as the members of Parliament, they will be seeing a really improved institution where everything is going to be done professionally. I'm happy that the employees or my colleagues here, they are very, very open, and there is like a team, a football team that we want to position people at their right position. If you play position 5 or you play position 5, we are in position 7, you play that position. So want to really align all the employees. So we have started also the strategic plan development through the support of UNDP. So this is a process which we think by March it is going to be completed.
Government is in a process to build a new parliament structure. On November, members of Parliament approved 1.7 billion emalangeni loan for a new parliament building. For Eswatini TV News, Fortune Dlangamandla with Lungelele Makakula, Parliament.
The Director of Agriculture, Nelson Mavuso, has advised Sibovu farmers not to panic because of the yellowish parasitic weed known as doda, because this kind of weed is common in the country, especially when rain is seldom seen.
Following an outbreak of unknown parasitic weed at Sibovu, Mahlangaja, Gege and surrounding areas, this kind of yellowish parasitic weed has brought fear to farmers because it colonizes their maize fields. The director in the Ministry of Agriculture, Nelson Mavuso, has advised farmers not to panic because this kind of parasitic weed is common in the country, especially when there is scarcity of rainfall.
This weed we're talking about is a yellowish weed that does have colors, the green color. It is a parasitic weed of unplowed land or where there are crops. One of the characteristics of it is that when it is in the field, it will release its eggs, its seeds onto the ground. Once the seeds gets to the ground, they will germinate. When it germinates, it sends out some of the stems, even though they're not green, but they're usually yellow, which will sweep around and attach itself of any nearby green plant. When it does that, it disengages from the roots, so the roots fail to function after that one. So it will depend entirely on the weed species that it has attached itself to. That's how it obtains water and also obtains nutrients. Doda is a parasitic weed that is becoming common and is usually found around the areas of Mangayane, especially when the rainfall is not that good. But the farmers should not be scared of it because it can be managed.
Mavuso further urged farmers to uproot the yellowish parasitic weed and ban it immediately before it germinates and destroy their crops. He also says that at the moment there is no other way of destroying the Doda parasitic weed except for uprooting it at an early stage. For Eswatini TV News, Zoto Antlameni with Muzum Konda in Babane.
The Ministries of Health and Home Affairs held a faith healing indaba with the objective to discuss HIV matters and prevention of sexual violence against children. Faith leaders are urged to, while preaching the word of God, also encourage church members to check their health statuses, especially their HIV statuses. The meeting was held at the Happy Valley Hotel in Eswatini.
The Faith Healing Indaba is held under the Faith and Community Initiative, which its purpose is to support innovative approaches through communities of faith to reach young men, HIV-positive people, encourage HIV testing and treatment services to members of the public by employing the unique capabilities of faith-based organizations. The faith leaders have been gathered to discuss health matters and prevention of sexual violence against children. The Minister of Home Affairs, who was represented by the Undersecretary in the Ministry, Nhlanhla Dlamini, says this initiative is very important.
The Church can also positively support efforts to prevent the proliferation of sexual violence against women and children. However, this will require us to work together in unity and common understanding.
Minister of Health, who was represented by Director Health Services, Dr. Vusi Makagula, says he hopes that this project will serve its purpose, which is to control the HIV and AIDS pandemic.
We believe that faith leaders can be harnessed into ensuring that healthcare issues are put on the agenda, to ensure that they use those positions in making sure that things are done right.
Promise Dlamini from the Muslim Ministry says because of their beliefs, they are left behind on such issues.
There are some few norms that we have to also follow as Muslims, such as a woman is not supposed to be next to a man because of some issues. And then, of course, the girl child and the boy child, they are also not encouraged to be together based on the religion. And there are some practices, again, which forbids us as Muslims that we cannot do like the normal population.
The ministers say they hope that this gathering will be fruitful and pastors will take the necessary precautions to curb the spread of the virus. Reporting, I'm Lungilile Makakula with Fortune Dlangamandla, Zulwini.
Organizations representing persons with disabilities in Eswatini have expressed the need for harmony and cooperation in communities between the disabled and the able-bodied. Such sentiments were raised in a dialogue between disabled persons and those involved in community development work in Manzini and surrounding areas.
The dialogue session held at the Manzini Municipal Council offices was between organizations representing persons with disabilities and those at the very heart of community development in Eswatini's central town, including rural health motivators, constituency headmen, and members of chiefdom inner councils. This dialogue served as a platform in which disabled persons voiced out their concerns on the hurdles and struggles they face in communities. This dialogue was preceded by the commemoration of the International Day of the Disabled, which was celebrated last week. During the dialogue held in Manzini, Sipho Dlamini, who is the president of the Federation of Organizations of Disabled Persons in Eswatini, Fotwa, emphasized on the importance of communities giving themselves time to understand persons with disabilities.
People understand that persons with disabilities live in the community, and if they live in the community, they expect to be treated like any other person who's able-bodied. So here, our dialogue today here, it will be an eye-opener.
Lomane Simpamali, who is a rural health motivator at Ngwane Park, acknowledges that persons with disabilities face many challenges in communities. She says, for instance, persons with speech and hearing impairments often have difficulties expressing themselves, primarily because not many people understand sign language. She says the other big challenge that persons with disabilities face is neglect. In the past days, Fotwa undertook an exercise of registering all disabled persons in the country. Once this list is compiled, it will be handed over to the Deputy Prime Minister's office, which is the government office responsible for providing social security to the disabled persons in the country. For Eswatini TV News, Hlengwendlov with Muzim Konda, it's Manzini.
Health is a fundamental right for every employee. Therefore, employers must ensure that wellness programs are a priority for all employees. These sentiments were shared by Kango Executive Director Emmanuel Dlangamandla during Kango Wellness Day held at Mavuso Sports Center in Manzini.
Since the world is faced by many emerging diseases, transmitted diseases and non-communicable diseases, there is a great need for employees to have wellness day programs in order to get assistance in time. According to the Executive Director for the Coordinating Assembly of Non-Governmental Organization, Emmanuel Dlangamandla, during Kango Wellness Day held at Mavuso Sports Center in Manzini, if employees are not well taken care of, health-wise, the production can decrease.
We are using this day for our own wellness because we are human beings. We also get stressed, we also get sick, we also get burnt out from work. So we are trying to recharge our batteries and also to take care of our own lives also. We can't just be running around the whole year helping others without helping ourselves.
Dlangamandla further encouraged all employers to make sure that wellness programs are held to ensure that employees stay healthy at all times.
Lokuthi le wellness program ibe in place yendele tisebenza ukuthi tikhone ukuthi iproduction ibe ngilesedule.
The director for Insiga Healthcare provider Wendy Malu says it is encouraging to see the government and non-governmental organizations encouraging wellness programs countrywide. The event was attended by various companies and government departments such as Save the Children, Young Heroes, FHI 360, the Ministry of Health and many others. For Eswatini TV News, Zoto Antlamin with Muzum Konda in Manzini.
The Royal Eswatini Police Service notifies members of the public that the overhead bridge by Elangeni Primary School has been closed due to it being damaged. Therefore, the public is advised to use alternative routes while the issue is being resolved.
That the overhead bridge that goes to Elangeni Primary School is presently closed due to the fact that yesterday a truck that was driving past damaged the overhead bridge. So presently, we appeal to the nation to use alternative routes when they need to cross from Elangeni to Lubamba until further notice.
A very good evening once again. Welcome to our sports news. Minister of Sports Harris Bulunga says the ministry will remain in consultation with the Ministry of Health regarding the return of football supporters. Bulunga was speaking during the official launch of the 2020-2021 MTN Premier League held at the Royal Swazi Spa in Eswatini.
Premier League of Eswatini, with its title sponsor MTN Eswatini, launched the 2020-2021 Premier League season. Speaking during the launch was the Minister for Sports, Harris Bulunga, who said that the Ministry of Sports will continue to be in consultation with the Ministry of Health to find out when is the right time to allow fans to go into the stadium to watch the games.
Working with the Ministry of Health, we will continue to engage the football authorities, and when it is safe to do so, we will consider allowing football supporters into the match venues. While this is already happening in other countries, it is important that we remind all football lovers that the nature of the virus varies from one country to another. Thus, government will continue to take decisions, even in sport, with the best interest of Emaswati at heart, and with full consideration of the nature of COVID-19 in Eswatini.
Eswatini MTN Chief Executive Officer Wandile Mjadi highlighted that as the title sponsor, they have already provided means and ways on how fans will be viewing the games.
But our customers will go, or our football lovers will go into a website called Yellow Hub, and so this is a content solution that houses local content. It will be streaming live, so when the matches are happening in the stadia, it could be Somhlolo or Manzini, someone will be having a camera out there streaming that live match.
Adam Setfa, who is the president of Eswatini Football Association, encouraged all stakeholders, being the league, sponsor and clubs, to follow all COVID-19 regulations as they kick off the new season.
As we continue to adapt to the COVID-19 induced normality, a series of technological innovations are being established to assist execute our business. In this regard, the Football Association appeals for the cooperation of all in order to assure the survival of our game through COVID-19 times.
The new 2020-2021 season is worth 6 million emalangeni. The season is expected to kick off this coming Saturday with only Premier League clubs to be involved, while National First Division clubs begin next week. For Eswatini TV Sports, Fabrice Msonera, Zulwini.
PLE Executive Member Charles Mathebula says the Premier League has started soliciting alternative revenue sources for Premier League clubs. Mathebula says the selling of broadcasting rights is on top of their agenda. He was speaking during the official launch of the 2020-2021 MTN League at the Royal Swazi Spa in Zulwini.
Ahead of the new season of the 2020-2021, the Premier League of Eswatini has started looking ways of how clubs can generate income without relying on caretakings. According to executive member Charles Mathebula, they have realized that in the past, clubs were only collecting 10% of the incomes. The 90% remaining can be still a possibility for clubs to generating money.
As the PLE and the executive were unpacking and trying to look at the options, ukuthi kukhulunywa ngani na kukhulunywa nga 90%, kukhulunywa ngabo advertising, kukhulunywa ngabo coverage, kukhulunywa ngabo streaming, kukhulunywa nga kuthengisa ama rights, kukhulunywa ngakuthengisa branding, those are the options that we are working on, but it includes other stakeholders and other partners.
Matsebura went on to highlight that ahead of the new season, clubs have already been handed money in preparations for the season. He went on to explain how venues will be utilized ahead of the new season.
Each day at Abang 4, but most of the stadiums have been approved, they are okay. Lalamaya hlala aba standby because, like we know, uma wasebenzisa the facility bese kutholakala ukuthi una COVID-19, it means that facility we can stop, we can't use it following week. So we must have an available stadium to take over lomsebenzi kulama game lamanye latawulandzela. So that is why utsibuke onke, but to say we are going to use 4 stadiums per day.
The season will be kicking off this coming Saturday. For Eswatini TV Sports, Fabrice Musonera, Zulwini.
And that's all we had. Before we conclude, let's have a relook at our top stories.
$19 million emalangeni worth of equipment bought by government for the fire and emergency services has been lying idle since 2014. Government has launched the Kingdom's development framework. The Ministry of Justice is drafting bills that will address maladministration issues at the Master's Office.
That sums up our bulletin for tonight. From mine, the team here at Eswatini TV, thank you for watching. Good night.
Everywhere you go, MTN.